among other appliances. With this, I would like to leave it with the experts to take things further in explaining the need to a proper virtual and electronic waste management, keeping sustainability as a priority. Thank you all, and I wish one and all fruitful and meaningful deliberations. Please stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you. God bless everyone.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words and also setting the agenda for today's session. So before we proceed further, we have Ms. Nancy Gales. She is the CEO of the Global Electronic Council. Thank you very much, Ms. Nancy, for joining us so early in the morning. We really appreciate and thank you for your time. You need to unmute, ma'am. Yeah. Now it is fine.
Great. Thank you very much for this invitation to join this conversation. I am Nancy Gillis. I'm the CEO of the Global Electronics Council. We are a nonprofit organization that is focused on creating a more just and sustainable world through technology. And we have been in business as a nonprofit organization for more than 15 years. I'm coming to you early this morning from the United States, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about our organization, a partnership that we're a member of called the Circular Electronics Partnership, and the global campaign that we are launching to leverage the power of the purchaser. So,
sure, ma'am. So, Ms. Nancy, sorry for, we will invite you for your lecture maybe after some time. So we'll take the program further as per the agenda. So now I would like to invite our young and dynamic co-chair for the ICT and Electronic Committee from PhD Chamber, Shri Kunal Singhal ji, to give his address to us. Shri Kunal Singhal.
Thank you, Naveen ji, and respected President, and all the dignitaries and the panelists that we have today here. I'm honored to be here, part of this esteemed gathering. And just to add on the context set by Multani sir, e-waste is something like a problem the way we did not envision air pollution or water pollution probably 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago. That time we thought they were not priorities and we did not take enough steps to counter them. And they have become global problems now. The way plastic became a global problem. I think it's time with e-waste also that before it becomes a global problem, we envision it, we take the right corrective steps, and prevent it from becoming a hazard. Because e-waste is practically being generated in every home and every office. Data centers was a very large example given by sir. But every computer, every mobile phone, everything being put into a household or in an office is contributing to e-waste. And it is increasing at a very, very high speed, as even the last estimates of 2019 say that there is about 3 million metric tons of e-waste being generated in India annually. And this is ever growing. So leaving it to the dignitaries and just for example, for setting a small example, let's say in our society, the apartments that I live in, they have a separate bin just for the e-waste dumping, so that the rest of the garbage goes separately and the e-waste garbage goes in a different bin altogether. If such small steps can be taken out at all office buildings and apartment buildings, at least some portion of it would be taken care of. So thank you once again and welcome all the speakers.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Kunalji. Thank you very much. So now we would like to hear it from the Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee, who is the Director Scientist F, Electronics Materials and Component Division from the Ministry of Electronics and IT, METI as we call it, from Government of India. So before he speaks, I would just like to give a brief profile of Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee. He is a techno administrator and engaged in implementing R&D projects and technology development on electronics, material, and photonics and their components and processing technology, which are beneficial to electronics and photonics manufacturing industries. He is also engaged in developing recycling technologies of electronic waste and management and successfully implemented many projects till the pilot plant stage. Dr. Chatterjee have more than 50 research articles in reputed journals and 2 patents also published, a book on electronic waste management, an India perspective by Lambert Academic Publishing Company, Germany, and contributed a chapter on sustainable recycling technology for electronic waste of the book Sustainability in the Mineral and Energy Sectors, published in 2016 by CRS Press, Taylor and Francis, US. Dr. Chatterjee has been honored with Indira Gandhi Raj Sabha Award from Honorable former President Shri Pranab Mukherjee on Hindi Divas in 2013 for writing an article in Hindi on electronics upshift or Bharat. He was invited as guest in the many international and national conferences, including ICM Switzerland, TMS USA, ICM Macau, etc. So I present to you Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen, for giving a very detailed, my profile. This is one of the subject I like, and we are nurturing from our ministry for last almost 17 years. As you all know, the subject, if you are talking about rules, regulation, guidelines, this is another ministry, Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change are looking after that part. And the CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board, under the MOEF, is regulating the rule in our country. As other speaker always mentioned, this is really a challenging, waste stream, and the fastest among the solid waste management. But why it is very critical? Because this is a complicated waste stream as well. Because if you see the electronics and electrical products which we are using for daily life since morning to night, that we just cannot get rid of those equipment for their functionality, but they are produced in using different type of elements. Almost in periodic table, 69 elements are used, and out of which few are really hazardous. But this is not intentional, but due to the functional reason they are being used. But if you see the last last 5-6 years, India is growing its economy, and that is supported by ICT sectors, and which uses huge amount of electronics. So that is how the in the waste stream also it has now we are contributing. Unfortunately, we are in the 3rd place, the global generation of e-waste. We have created already 3.23 million metric ton. But if you see the same agency's data in 2016, we are in the 5th place. So within 2 years, we come to the 3rd place, and China and US is the other 2 countries ahead of us. But very soon we can go to the 2nd place. But you have to see the e-waste in another angle. The waste stream is having all sorts of useful resource material. If you talk about the 3.23 million metric ton of electronic waste, it is having around 1.7 million metric ton of ferrous, ferrous metal and other valuable metals, and around 0.6 million metric tons of non-ferrous and some other materials, and 0.7 million metric ton of plastics. They are also having a 7 different categories of plastics, where engineering plastics are also being used. So this is resource material for us. So if you can recycle this electronics in a industrial means, it can create employment. It can extract the value material which are actually required for our future generation of manufacturing. And some of the elements are not available, like indium used for a flat panel as ITO, indium tin oxide, or rather tantalum is one type of element was used for capacitor. They are no longer present in the Mother Earth. So this is the secondary mining is one of the important thing we should nurture in our country. So if you see the rules, we have started talking about this subject from 2002 actually. Then after so much of discussion in 2010 or 11, we have a dedicated rules in the country. From 1st of May 2012, actually the first version of the rule was enacted in the country. And in second version, that is a stringent version, that is EVWC rule 2016. It was enacted from 1st of October 2016. Then in 2018, there is another further amendment in the rule. This rule having a different type of measures, international best practices, I should say. One is the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. It was there in version 12 also. Was we have created a target. This target actually says that what are the products you are having, manufacturing, and after the end of life, how much the manufacturer should take back from the market. So this target started from very small, percentage, 5 to 10% in 2017. This year it is 50%. So we are growing, and by 2023 we will be reaching 70% of target. That means whatever the product is sold in the market, 70% of the product will come back by 2023. This is a good initiative, I should say. Another initiative was ROS compliant, but I should say this is not functioning properly because we do not have the guideline how to monitor this ROS, that is restricted of hazardous substance. We have 6 elements, lead, mercury, chromium 6 plus, cadmium, and 2 different categories of BFR plastics are restricted category, but we do not know how to monitor it, but it is basically voluntary in our country. And this rule, I should say, in 2012 we have 20 product to be monitored. Now we have a 21 product. So this front we have not enhanced because if you see the European Union rule, they have almost more than 600 products for monitoring. Why I am stressing this point? Because if you are embracing all those products or electronics or electrical item we are using, then the material availability, because all those products have been developed by some materials, useful materials. So those tracking can be there. So what are the present challenge and what our ministry is doing, I'll be saying. As I already mentioned, we have a 21 products. It requires a further manifold enhancement. All those products are generating in the electronic waste, or if you are having a rule similar to European Union, we should follow their definition where it is saying that 1000 volt DC and 1500 volt AC, whatever the products are working under that power specification should be considered under the electronic waste. But we are just monitoring 21 products. Another very important things, we have a very important, EPR implementation, extended producer responsibility. But once the products are being collected, how it is going for recycling, we do not have any clue. So mass balancing is one of the important things. It's missing. It is also has to be implemented in the country. And there are around 400 recyclers authorized. But we do not know what is their capability, what is the equipment, skill set. So that is also a challenging thing. And process audit among this PRO, dismantler, recycler, this is also issue. And last 3 bullet where our ministry is working, awareness, skilled manpower in the system, affordable infrastructure, machining equipment, and affordable process technology. These 3 bullets our ministry has contributed significantly. So this is one of the important thing on awareness. We started by the call of Honorable Prime Minister in 2015. We carried out this program up to 2020 March, and we have where PhD Chamber of Commerce was also included along with us, along with MET, LCNAM, NASCOM, and other organizations. So jointly work on this awareness program. 31 states we have covered. We have created a dedicated course content for the 9 different stakeholders, including informal sectors. And those course material contents are available freely in our website, dedicated website, www.greeny.gov.in. Anybody can download them and further roll out this program. Also, we have created, posters, film, different type of, promotional videos. So that also can be downloaded and further roll out. Apart from that, we have created more than 1,500 Greeny champions. They are the trained, trainers who are further can be there. They can be accessed. for rollout of this program. Their contact details are also there in the website. And apart from that, we have created a 7 to 9 standard dedicated course material, which is now available in NCERT's Ministry of Education's NCERT Diksha platform for training for the 7 to 9 standard student. And also we have developed some protocol how to do the inventory, because different states are doing inventory in different formulas, and they are not matching. So that is also what should be done in the inventory things, because whatever the inventory SPCB, CPCB sharing is not, you cannot compare. So that is also another issue. Now, these are all this awareness program and our rollout, where the through film awareness program, PhD Chamber of Commerce helped us. So we have covered almost 21 crores young through cinemas. That project was done by PhD Chamber of Commerce. Now, in the technology development form, if we are dismantling electronic product in our country, dismantling is possible with a proper skill set. And if you are dismantling it, there are few parts like printed circuit board. That is the complicated part, and that is the precious part. That requires a higher technology. So we have developed two different technology under different R&D scheme and upscale them. One is the pulverizing that printed circuit board and segregation by the magnetic separator, eddy current separator, and density separator. Then through hydrometallurgy, we have extracted the gold, copper, silver, and palladium. And another method we have done, which is the pyrolysis method, depopulated printed circuit board, done the pyrolysis, calcination, and chemical leaching. And in the second method, we have upscaled, and we have two different pilot plant running. One is in CMAT Hyderabad, which is 100 kg printed circuit board facility, which will be very suitable for our informal sectors. We have nearly 20 to 30 lakhs informal operating. They are mainly extracting gold from printed circuit board. They are not handling the entire US. So they are actually trying to extract gold, and their yield is also very low. So this 100 kg we have handed over some to companies now, and another is 1,000 kg printed circuit board per day capacity. That is operational with our industry partner eParisara Bangalore in Bangalore. So apart from printed circuit board, we have 7 different categories of plastics, and some of the plastics are also the engineering value plastics. So 76% of those plastics we have converted to the master batch, and those master batches used for a different type of products like car bumper, steering, interior of the car. And this technology also transferred to one company in Bhubaneswar, Neil Plast. So apart from that, we have done one with the different type of technology repository we have already created with our own lab in CMAT. We have created a center of excellence with the participatory funding from Telangana government 40%, METI is given 40% and 20% with the industry, where all the 7 different type of technology like printed circuit board, plastics, lithium-ion battery, spin magnet, phosphors coming out from CFL and fluorescence lamp, and the solar panel. We are trying to develop and handing over to the startup companies or other. This project started from 2019, where the target is we should create the 50 SMEs, 12 startup company, 10 informal should be upgraded, and along with that we will be giving a training for ROS practice to the 100 SMEs, and also we are working with IIT Hyderabad, where we have created an MTech course on e-waste management, where we will be creating PhD and 10 MTech. So these are all offering of technology from that Center of Excellence. PCB recycling, where we have a TRL level 6, technology readiness level 6. We have already handed over this technology to party, this thing. So now lithium-ion battery, also hydrometallurgy route, as well as pyrometallurgy route, we have concluded TRL level 4, where almost 4 industry in the both the case, like 8 industry are now engaged for upskilling this technology along with the Center of Excellence. And this is a spin magnet from hard disk. We have developed this technology and patented. This is also TRL level 4. Now, and CFL phosphor, that is, very CFL are used in solid waste management. So we have developed technology and machine and which can extract the rare earth from this CFL, and this we are giving it to Indian rare earth in an intermediary process. And this is a solar panel extraction that is just started. We are now gone up to TRL level 2. And these are the different industry engaged in that center of excellence who are beneficiary or they are used for rollout of the PCB technology or lithium-ion battery recycling upskilling thing. So these are all some of the activity we are having into under that COE. Now, apart from that, there is a skill set we are generating in because we have found that skill is also another important thing our ministry should work. We have started a program in Northeast where 8 states of the North State, we are creating 30 skilled manpower for entrepreneurship, which can be doing that segregation and dismantling and segregation of the electronic product, and we will be creating 20 master trainer in that program. Now I am coming to the conclusion. We should not think only of the e-waste. Now we should talk about the circular economy. So entire process of the from the design state of the product to the recycling, we should monitor. But what are the global practices? If you see that we should have a right to repair act, which will ensure that products should not be made for obsolescence. So the software doping and other technical lock and other things should not be given. There should be a minimum technology support if you are really interested to use that product. And also the product should be designed in such a way that refurbishment can be done easily. So dismantling should be easier. So these are the things are talking about in the international forum. We should also work on that. There should be some recycling standard. There are different standards available worldwide. Eco level should be another thing. Green sticker, circular economy indicator. Now green public procurement. If your government is started doing that, green public procurement and green design. So these are all some of the things our manufacturer may not like it, but these are the things people should do. And with that concept, ministry has come out with a circular economy policy document where Mr. Panshu also contributed, GIZ was there, and some other team member. We have developed, it is in public domain for comment. So this is the direction of Niti Aayog. So we'll be concluding this policy document. So with that theme, ministry wants, our ministry wants the product should be designed. The country, we are talking about India, where you have a city, tier 2 city, tier 3 city. So if you are having a better phone in a retro model from a some good company, it is always better to use and the customer experience will be different. Then we should have a design for environment to reuse. So EPR, that extended producer responsibility, now in India is taking care of end of life, but it should take from the design stage as well. Then the resource efficiency to be considered so that we can strengthen the circular economy. Now we should talk about the tracking of secondary raw material, tracking of critical raw material, motivation to incentive the green design should be given through government, and right to repair. This legislative and regulatory frameworks should be implemented in the country. Standards for refurbishment, dismantling, segregation or recycling should be done. In e-waste rule, refurbish has been just touched upon, but if you see the CRO is actually compulsory registration obligation from our ministry, that is not allowing refurbished phone to sell in a formal way. Because that requires a compulsory testing and other things, that standard has to be mentioned. So if you have all those things, the consumer to provide a choice for safety of quality standard of the refurbished phone. So if you can implement that, so generation of e-waste can be minimized And if it is generated, then the recycling should be a cost-effective method, or the machines should be affordable to the country. If we can handhold those machines and the skill set to the 30 lakhs informal operating in our country, that would be the win-win situation for the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chatterjee, for the detailed insight which you have given, and also what all the ministry has been doing and has done on this and is planning to do. I think this is what our senior VP also mentioned, that we have to create an awareness. As you rightly mentioned, that program which was done along with you and PhD has done, that awareness was made. So I think similar activities, more programs we need to conduct under your guidance, so that we can reach out to people and create an effective awareness about this. And as you rightly mentioned, we have to have the international standards and the good practices which are happening. So those needs to be implemented in this, and then take it further. I could see Ms. Nancy was giving you a thumbs up when you were talking about the green part.
Yes.
So that is how I think we need
we are sharing two conference in the same panel. So that time also Nancy was there with me.
Yeah,
so
sure.
She knows me. Thank you, Nancy.
I think I request all the attendees, whatever questions they have, they can put in the chat box, that we'll be taking up specifically during the question answer session. So now to proceed further, I would like to now invite Dr. Sunil Pandey, who is the Director, Environment and Waste Management Division from the Energy and Resource Institute, TERI.
Yes.
Dr. Pandey, in addition, is the adjunct faculty at the TERI School of Advanced Studies as well. So just to give you a brief about Dr. Pandey, he has more than 25 years of consultancy and research experience in the areas of municipal, industrial and hospital waste management, plastic waste management, waste to energy issues, impact assessment, air, water and soil quality monitoring, site assessments, performance, evaluation of ETP, and institutional strengthening and capacity building. He has obtained his PhD degree in hazardous waste characterization from Nagpur University while working as a project fellow at NIRI, Nagpur. He has MSc Analytical Chemistry, Banaras Hindu University, India, and did his BSc Chemistry from Banaras Hindu University. Prior to joining TERI, Dr. Pandey has worked for ERM India as consultant for 2 years, where he was working on projects related to hazardous and hospital waste management, environmental site assessments, and institutional strengthening and capacity building. Dr. Pandey has also worked as research assistant at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology on development of landfill liner for containment of land disposed hazardous waste, and University of Hong Kong on deriving material balances and associated environmental pollution for Hong Kong region as part of postdoctoral research. So I think the list goes on and on. So I request Dr. Pandey if he can share his views and guide us at how we can take this further. Dr. Pandey.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Seth. I hope you all can see my presentation. I have a small presentation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And also, I'm after Dr. Chatterjee, and Dr. Chatterjee is generally so thorough in his coverage that he leaves very little which is not covered. So there will be some repetition in my presentation, but I mean, you should excuse me for that. I'll try to bring in some other issues to the fore when I discuss this in the presentation. So as said by Dr. Chatterjee and also earlier by Mr. Sanghi as well, India reportedly generates around 3 million tons of e-waste, which has gone up, and this is one of the most rapidly growing urban waste streams. Not surprisingly, because of our use, rapid use and rapid obsolescence of the electronic materials which we use. This is despite not all materials currently listed as leading to e-waste, as mentioned by Dr. Chatterjee in WEEE regulation. If you look at constituents of this, all the e-waste on an average, around 21% of this is plastics. And when you look at literature, there's various kind of plastics and present in e-waste components, ABS plastics, polyethylene, PP, PC, PVC, HIPS. And mechanical, if you remove, when you salvage e-waste, when you kind of remove, say, functional parts, dismantling, and when you crush e-waste, mechanized sorting of e-plastics generally is not very relevant for Indian condition because it's cost prohibitive, and most of the time recyclers can't afford that. Issues related to e-waste recycling now also, though I mean Indian e-waste, formal e-waste recycling is now very vibrant sector compared to earlier years. Still, it's claimed that around 90% of e-waste still leading to informal sector. But for formal sector also, plastic recycling still remains a challenge, as said earlier in the slide, largely because of mixed nature of plastics and presence of various flame retardants, because they are embedded in matrix of the plastic, and when you try to recycle them in a conventional way, the recycled product which comes out has a lower quality. Most of the time cannot be used again as a engineering plastics, and also emission of flame retardants if the plastic recycling is not done in a controlled manner becomes an issue. But however, I mean, if you look at estimates from various global estimates, there's a value in e-waste recycling if it is done properly. If it can be done scientifically, it can be, if it can be done in an environmentally benign manner. And this is kind of resources which was also touched in a different manner by Dr. Chatterjee in terms of quantity of different resources and amount of revenues which these resources can bring in by recovering and recycling. Iron, copper, aluminum, palladium, and plastics. Of course, I mean, most of the value is associated with gold, though very small quantity. But recovery of gold is a challenge. Recovery of a gold is a challenge in our setup where we don't have dedicated gold recovery recycling happening. There are certain laboratory research carried out earlier, which I'll touch very briefly on. They were, I mean, before formal plastic recycling started happening, and kind of e-waste was looked as a resource. There were various papers, various academic institutions, which tried using e-plastics, electronic plastics derived from electronic waste, as construction material. And they found out that when they increase the percentage of recycled plastic in the construction material, the strength goes down, tensile strength goes down, and at around 30% or 20 to 30%, it's not worth mixing plastic in the concrete for using it as a core segregator. E-plastics also has been used by certain researchers also at a pilot level in compression molding. And research done on ABS plastics indicates that improper mixing, through improper mixing, if mixing is not proper, entrapped gases can result in lower strength of the material which is produced if you compare that with a virgin material. Lower strength is also attributed to degradation of butadiene rubber at a higher temperature. Similar results were also seen in ABS and different PC mix molding in terms of strength and in terms of degradation of products. Recycling pilots in India, I'll just quickly go through, not spend any time on it because this is already covered very extensively by Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee, and he has already shown the processes which are developed by CIPET and also CIMET. Only issue which I would like to touch here is though CIPET has developed a technology for managing these plastics in a manner that they take care of BFR or any other flame retardants by passing the material through hot air oven at and ensuring that there is a temperature profile available where flame retardants are evaporated and results into plastics, which can be then used for producing high value products. But I mean, again, at a larger scale, when you scale this up, how the pollution control would happen for the volatile PFR flame retardants, which is coming out into environment, probably would become a concern. So I would like to have an industry's comment on this one. Technology by CIMET is already explained by Dr. Chatterjee. I'll not spend time. As a recommendation, it would be looking something similar to Dr. Chatterjee as a way forward. But I'd also like to suggest that it's time that we look at longer life for the product, modular designs, where I mean certain components which are not functional can be replaced, and so that product can be used for a longer period of time, and only components which are not functioning can be removed and replaced. Ease of dismantling and recycling, also touched by Dr. Chatterjee. So a product has to be designed for recycling. In addition, Dr. Chatterjee also mentioned about ROSH, restriction on hazardous substances. To address that, one approach can be chemical fingerprinting of different products in terms of major constituents, or I mean constituents which are issue of concern. Not only this will not only enable us to reduce and replace some of these hazardous materials in future, and also reduce dependence on rare earth metals, rare constituents, which are used in the product, and look at R&D which are focusing on materials with similar engineering performance or similar performance, which are not so rare, because if the material is rare, then it becomes a mining issue, and countries which control availability of these materials control the market. So these issues need to be addressed probably at global level. Green design for storage batteries, and what I'll also like to suggest here is, because most of the batteries currently are lithium based, and there are various lithium chemistries which are being used. So other than green designs for the ease of recycling by the collector who's collecting and recycling lithium, I mean such storage batteries, there also needs to be label in terms of sticker that what chemistry these batteries are, so that these chemistries can be dismantled, opened, or recovered and recycled together, and we don't end up mixing different chemistries together. Also establishing economy of scale for material recovery, so that material can be more for the case of rare earths and platinum, palladium, gold, etc., where I mean these materials can be harvested or recovered in a gainful manner, by economic manner. So I'll end this here. Thank you for the opportunity you gave me, and I hope I was kind of little different than Dr. Chatterjee, the extensive coverage of Dr. Chatterjee. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pandey. I think you have covered it very well. And as I mentioned earlier about to Dr. Chatterjee also, that we would like to work very closely with you on this, so that a proper awareness we can all create in the industry here. Thank you very much once again for your time and sharing your views with us. So now, friends, we will go further. So first we will touch the virtual waste part. So to start with, I would like to invite my colleague Mayank Chatwal, who is the Joint Secretary in our PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And he's the one who actually conceived this idea after discussing with a lot of you people, that we can come out with this kind of a webinar to start with, and then make it a regular series to do this event. So I would invite him to make a brief presentation on the virtual waste. So just to give you an idea and a background, that Mayank is a seasoned event professional, and who had started his career from London, and had been instrumental in the setting up of event divisions of different organizations where he was associated. So he is also currently pursuing his PhD in management from Amity University, and has successfully completed his MBA, MCOM, BBA, post-graduation in journalism as well. So this idea of organizing virtual and electronic waste came when he was during the literature review of his thesis. So And in fact, he has always tried to think out of the box and deliver ideas on table as well, which are not only forthcoming, but also hold an important position in this society as a whole. So I really appreciate the work he is doing. So Mayank, over to you. You can share your views.
Thank you so much, sir, for the kind words. Very good afternoon to all the domain experts and delegates who have joined us today for the virtual Electronic and Waste Conclave 2021. It's a really a privilege to be part of the conclave with such eminent speakers. Moving on, I would also like to thank PSD CCI to provide me an opportunity to present among the learned audience. The idea of organizing, as mentioned by Mr. Naveen said, was that it came when I was doing my literature review for my PhD thesis. I mean, it is interesting to know that how things are changing so rapidly, and there is always a scope of new terminology and science at the same time. So to be precise, I will be giving a quick presentation on the overview of virtual waste, and my co-guide, Ms. Namita Rajput, will be deliberating on the above subject. So before I start the topic, it's a moment to be proud that PSD CCI is the first chamber to organize an event on virtual waste combined with electronic waste in India as of now. So moving on further, I'll just quickly share my presentation as well. I hope my presentation is visible. So it's going to be more on the overview of the virtual waste. So first of all, we need to understand what exactly is virtual waste. This is the most important part. So virtual waste is a type of waste, but it's like a click away. Most of us are familiar and quite techno-savvy post the COVID times as well with the emails, which is pretty common now. And of course, the search engines and the internet, as it is expanding their hub over the data. Everybody in any kind of society, in any kind of organization is really using the virtual space quite extensively during the COVID times, because that's the only medium that we can actually use to communicate in the current scenario. The information generated for the millions of internet users requires massive warehouses called data centers that can host rows and rows of several dedicated data to be stored over the years. Now, I mean, to basically manage the virtual space, it is always important to understand that it is a mix of both virtual as well as electronic, because unless we have electronic, we really can't focus on virtual at the same time. So it goes hand in hand. These data centers use massive amount of energy and are the upstream beneficiaries of processes that contribute to the climate change, resource extraction, and pollution. Thinking with virtual data demonstrate the reduction of material waste alone does not mean reduction of overall environmental footprint on this planet. So people have a very wrong notion saying that if we start using the virtual space, we'll be basically saving and having less footprints compared to what we are using in the paper format or any solid format as such, which is not the truth as such. So that's one part of it. Moving further, we need to understand why should we be concerned. It's pretty evident as discussed previously as well that of course anything which is related to electronics specifically would definitely lead to multiple issues related to the air, water, and soil. So virtual spaces nonetheless, because ultimately we are using the electronic medium as well for the virtual part too. So the cloud centers, many of which can be seen from space, consume a tremendous amount of electricity. Some consumes equivalent to of nearly 1,80,000 tons of electricity, which is being utilized to basically eliminate homes which are 1,80,000. This is a huge number of electricity that is being consumed, which could be used for that other ways also. In United States alone, the digital warehouse use about 30 billion watt of electricity. This is a huge number, roughly equivalent to the output of 30 nuclear power plant. Account for 1/4 to 1/3 of that load basically. So again, you can understand the kind of mass it basically has. From the Indian context, if we talk about the Indian data center market is heading for a big boom over the next 5 years. The country has a population of 1.35. These are not the current size. Of course, the data is increasing on day-to-day basis. And of course, is the second largest after China. And we are equally digital hungry. So India will see an addition of at least 28 large hyperscale data centers over the next 3 years. When I say hyperscale is something which it says setup which exceeds 5,000 servers and 10,000 square feet. So you can very well understand the kind of space it needs to basically take things along further itself. So now again, very important question which comes up, how we can contribute. People might differ it from two angles. One is from a data center operator's angle, and the other one could come from an individual perspective altogether. So if we talk from a data center perspective, we need to understand that we can use a containment system. When we say containment system, it is basically for the fact that the overheating of equipment is often the main culprit when it comes to the power waste within data centers. So a simple resolution to this can be achieved by fixing air tiles in the cold aisles of the system. Now, what does that mean? It won't only help you in cooling and being more productive, it also raises the return temperatures, allowing your computer room's air condition, which is called CRAC units, to operate more effectively. Second could be turn off the idle IT equipments. Again, this is a very common phenomena we should also follow on day-to-day basis in our daily lives too. So the idea here is that the electronic equipment or anything which is left idle without being utilized and is switched on will use more electricity compared to when it is being used in the 100% capacity. So understanding that, it is really important to switch off the all the IT equipments which are not being utilized. And from there, this perspective, we're talking about the equipment used in data centers. Third, of course, could be move to more energy efficient UPS. So a UPS is basically an uninterrupted power supply system, which is basically heart of any data center, and it is very critical. An electrical unit which is used to support critical mainstream IT communications and infrastructure when main power fails or supply is inconsistent. So they often prevent disasters, especially within the organization where critical operations takes place. Need to understand in a very sequential manner to go with. Now, what is the best to think about use in that case? So basically, we need to use more of modular systems, which is basically replacing the standalone type of UPSs, which consume more space. These are much more compact. They can be adjusted in any kind of environment and are also very cost effective at the same time. The above practice will definitely help us to reduce the carbon footprints to a certain extent if we follow them very rigorously. So this was from a data center perspective. Now, if we talk from an individual perspective, there are some initiatives everybody as an individual can take now. First, discard data on regular basis, which has no relevance, and further and for future references. It is better known as cyber garbage. So everybody who's present here will definitely agree to me that most of the cases, what happens is that we are clicking pictures on our mobile, we keep on storing the data, which might be of relevance and which might not be of relevance at the same time. If you want to click a particular picture, we might click 10 of them and choose one, but we are not deleting the other 9 which we have. So what is happening? Each small picture is basically using some kind of a kilobyte or megabyte for that matter, and is being uploaded in the data services if you're using the virtual drives. Now, these drives are unnecessarily being cluttered with all such information, which needs to be shredded day in and day out. Second is try to shred the size of data. That could be a picture, that could be an MS Office file, that could be anything related to a video, and we can save that on cloud. Apart from that, what we can do is we can avoid the duplicity of data. We need to be more organized. Since I'm from the event background, I can very well relate to this, because if we are having different Excel sheet for different events of different visitors, the amount of Excel sheet and the amount of duplication that we arrange is massive. And most of the duplication goes similar because in most of the exhibition which are to related sector, we get the similar data. So it is very important that we have a very organized structure where we are having all the data under one roof and there is no duplication as such, will ultimately reduce the size of the file as well. Second is very important, avoid duplicity of data as I mentioned. And the fourth one is do not use multiple servers to store the same data. Now we have a very bad habit of using 2 different virtual cloud stores as well. Like for example, we might use Google Drive and we are also using one of the OneDrive of Microsoft, and unnecessary crowding by putting data in both the servers. It won't help anybody. Neither we are having any kind of alternative with that, because unnecessarily we are crowding it. Last one is do not populate your cloud storage since we have enough space available. I'll give you a very simple example. We stay in our own houses, consider them as data centers. Now, if you start pumping on new furnitures and do not remove the old one, what will happen? The whole system will collapse one day or the other. So it is very important to understand that we should not populate all these cloud storage just because we have space available. It should be kept in a very systematic and organized way. We should keep on organizing our data on day-to-day basis so that the overall burden on these data centers get reduced. It's not about one individual, but it's about the whole community, how we function. So this was just a brief overview about what virtual waste is all about and how we contribute as a data center and as and to deliberate more on this, I would request my co-guide, Ms. Namita Rajput, to take it further. Over to you, Naveen sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayank, and I must say that you have done good research on that. I think Professor Namita will be feeling very happy and proud, and she will give more inputs on that. So thank you, Mayank, for this. So now we will
Thank
go
you so
to
much.
Professor Namita Rajput. She is the professor at Department of Commerce, Sri Aurobindo College in the University of New Delhi. So Dr. Rajput has served as the principal OSD at the Sri Aurobindo College for a term of 3 years from 2017 April to May 2020 and has an enriching experience as associate professor, Department of Commerce in the Aurobindo College since 1995. She has a rich teaching experience for almost 27 years, and she has contributed tremendously in the area of research, primarily focused on areas concerning banking and finance, human resource management, and sustainability. Over 200 conference proceedings and publications in a plethora of listed journals are credited to her name, out of which over 70 are published in Scopus, EVWC, Australian Business Dean Council, and journals listed in the UGC CARE as well. So there is much to her credits, and I would like to request all of you to refer to the speaker profile, which is shared in the website where we are also showing this live at www.phdccwebinars.com. I repeat, www.phdccwebinars.com. So we are showing this event live there as well. So over to you, Professor Rajput.
My greetings and salutations to the organizers, especially for organizing this conclave on e-waste and the virtual waste management. So on the onset, first of all, I would like to give the meaning of what is waste. Waste minimization basically is a process of reducing the amount of activity of the waste management to a level as low as reasonably achievable. And when you talk about virtual it's definitely about visual world. Now, coming on more on this, most of us are familiar with the term e-waste, printers, televisions, copiers, etc. They all have their own recycling issues, as were addressed by the previous speakers, and not to mention the harmful materials that were utilized to create the devices in the first place. Only 12.5% of e-waste is recycled, according to one estimate of Greenpeace. Now, there is a subset of e-waste, which is also known as a virtual waste or a digital waste. So I would like to elaborate on
Dr.
this.
Ma'am, your PPT is
now,
not
consider
visible.
the data. I know it is not visible. I'm not able to share, but I will be sharing it later in the chat box.
Okay,
so it's okay. So consider the data, consider the cloud. There has been a place to store all the data from the internet. And as we spend more and more time online and leave a trail behind us, it takes more space, energy to store all our digital footprints. Now, digital warehouses, basically, they utilize about 30 billion watts of electricity and nearly comparable to output of 30 nuclear power plants. Now, these estimates are not just for the heck of it I'm giving. It is basically to understand the intensity of the virtual waste and the use of energy and, basically when you talk about the virtual waste, indeed. Now, this is when you talk about just an example of United States of America. The load of this kind of digital waste, if you talk about the world waste, it is about 1/4 to 1/3, between 1/3 and 1/4. So the internet basically has become an extension of our awareness, and another physical system we access through displays and the keyboard. And basically we talk about the ever expanding silo of the knowledge. Our ability to add more content to the internet can give an idea that it is infinite and a limitless expanse of either the non-material plane and holds an endless amount of information in a zero space. We also call it as a black hole. And to be very precise, this is like a havoc which we are going to face in the near future if you're not going to contain and conserve the environment, because we do not have option of planet B. And we share a common universe, we live in a common universe. So it is our joint responsibility and a shared responsibility to save and conserve the environment by upholding, by conserving, and by changing the habits as far as the individual and the behavioral aspects of using the virtual space is concerned. The truth is that sometimes, irresponsible path of perpetual online expansion, we must understand that all these have physical ramifications that necessitates a vast quantities of energy, and it actually takes up the space, the physical space. So there is a virtual side and there is a material size of the digital space which we are using. The $500 billion data storage sector plays a big contribution in moving towards a paperless society. However, we recognize the environmental implications. We basically call it as a virtual waste. The cloud centers, many of which have been seen from the space, consume a tremendous amount of electricity and consume the equivalence of the homes, the place, the water, etc. So as was addressed by Mayank, that it has physical ramifications in relation to increasing the carbon footprints, in relation to air pollution, water pollution, environmental degradation, etc. So the fast expansion of online data, we have to deeply understand that what causes it has, as far as the other aspects are concerned. The term cloud is not new, but although it has revived in the recent years and the data centers have required since the inception of the internet, however, the number of the users have grown, the service capacity have grown at an exponential rate because of the internet usage, because of the necessity increase of the online education, the online, and especially all these trends are very visible, and the overall aspects after especially the COVID-19 in the last 2 years, the expansion has been exponential. And today, the phrase cloud is commonly used in the advertising to promote the virtual storage, and most big IT companies, they are making and building their business onto it. Some of the world's greatest technology business like Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft, they are expanding without proper respect and the source to the electricity as of now. But I must also tell the price of it. Each and every IT company which I have named, they are having very good and green plans of making the cloud greener and cleaner by 2030 by building those data centers, taking care of all the environmental impacts of whatever activity they are doing in terms of the digital cloud servers, etc. So by 2030, they claim, because I've visited their websites, I've seen many reports, and they claim that by 2030, all the data centers will be clean, and the cloud computing and everything will be clean and clean. So let us have, what they have to say and what they actually achieve. But as of now, we are seeing the brighter side, and they claim, and it is, very much available on the blogs, on the internet, and on their website about the green claims which they are making. And although data is the new oil and has outlived its utility as a metaphor, one feature remains true, that both business have a significant environmental footprints, and we all have to understand this. The data centers, they utilize 2% of all electricity, especially when you give an example of United States, according to their Department of Energy. And it implies that the cloud, which supports every Netflix, PUBG match, email, is lined not with a silver line, but with a carbon line. So individually, the bits in questions are very insignificant, and the business digital footprints, on the other hand, can be huge enough to harm the environment. So let us take it forward. Finding most environmental friendly approach to store the data would help them to reduce their emissions. But how we can well intervene, go into doing so, it is not always easy to figure out what is right. So because the top 3 providers, Amazon, Google Cloud Computing, and the Microsoft, they account for 2/3 of the rentable computing services. And considering the harmful impacts of expanding the scenario, in this regard, these giants have to seriously switch their core operations to the renewable energy in order to reduce the harmful digital footprints, increase the sustainable footprints, and move a step towards decarbonizing the globe as they have their operations across the globe. And we all have to actually see and read behind the lines of carbon footprints. So only then we can make a substantial difference and contribute towards decarbonizing the world. Now, as was given the example by Mayank, If you upload an image, it shows a slew of portrayals, which is a waste of the virtual space given our rate of technology consumption. So what is the true environmental consequences of internet collections, forgotten photographs, and the virtual waste? So digital space has become a plentiful and a low-cost commodity for majority of the ordinary consumers. And given that most of us far more require the storage space, and there appears to be limitless. But you have to understand the flip side of it, that it is not limitless. It is about use of the actual space, because there's a data center, there are servers which are taking care of your each follies, your wrong acts by duplicacy of the data, etc. So moving forward, it is a kind of the virtual or the digital garbage or the trash, what we're talking about. It is basically physically impossible to fathom, but it is just a click away. And the internet is an ever-expanding data hub, from the emails to the search engines, etc. So let me just quickly move on to the major technology corporations in the North America, in the United States. They fail to acknowledge and thus address the negative environmental impact about the internet usage centers are capable of. And if the sustainable solutions to powering the data centers aren't implemented, then of course I would like to say this and mention categorically that landfill will be the least of our worries, because if you're not understanding the virtual trash and its physical ramifications, the problem of landfill will be appearing a very less to us. So the corporate clouds keep websites, the search engines, and the national security data centers, and regrettably either the government nor the private IT firms are obliged to share the reports on their systems as far as the energy efficiency use is concerned. So let me give you one important data relating to Greenpeace International estimate that publicly available data on the specific company. It's safe to assume that neither the government nor the business sector are prioritizing the alternative sustainable energy sources to power their data centers. So I think it is, it is a matter of concern, and we should raise our voice and we should spread the awareness that what virtual trash is, how you can reduce, and overall the strategies to minimize this. So straight away, since I'm having very less time, so I would just trying to put some specific strategies in place, that how we can reduce it and how we can implement to manage the digital waste to the lowest possible extent. The digital waste is a subset of e-waste. So some strategies have to be adopted to save our environment and reduce the disastrous impact of raising the digital footprints. The efforts are required at the corporate level as well as the individual level to decarbonize the universe. Big IT giants are taking vital steps in this regard, as was already addressed, the brighter side of their reports. By 2030, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, they are on their road to make their clean and green clouds. And as per their latest reports released by them on the energy efficiency, so without doubts, we can say that slowly we are able to move on the road which is less traveled, that is the green cloud and computing aspects of these big giants. So they also have taken a green pledge to replace the hazardous use of the substance in the use of, which they use for the manufacturing, and to be replaced by renewable, recyclable raw material. So as the real world trash, researchers, the best approach to deal with the digital garbage is not to generate the garbage at all. So this is a very important step which we have to practice and make it in our core working culture also, that let us not only produce the garbage. So there will not be any need to even remove it or to clean it. So the first step is reduce less garbage. Number two, in the ordinary life, waste is something we do not need, desire, or cannot use longer. So look for the methods like reuse, recycle, or dispose of. So we have decided to use the same principles as we are using in a physical sense to promote the same concept as far as the virtual trash is concerned. So let us apply the reuse, recycle, and dispose of for the virtual garbage also. There is a waste data created unintentionally or as a side effect of a procedure with no particular objective. So, use data that has served its purpose but no longer serves the owner's needs. So let us delete that data. The data that has been, degraded to the point where it is no longer useful. Unwanted data that was never intended to be valuable for the computer users at all. So there's a quote which I would like to mention here, and then, few individual strategies, and then I'm going to finish my presentation. The world is a dangerous place, and not because of the people, but because of the people who don't know anything about it. It has been rightly said by Albert Einstein. And of course, I'm just moving on to some individual strategies. There's a team of researchers which has published a report describing the quantity of the data we produce with the day-to-day activities. So unwanted and unneeded data also pollutes the digital environment. The using of the real-life waste management strategies can give a good mileage in this regard. Some unencrypted digital garbage is stacking up in the system, affecting the computer efficiency, which has to be periodically monitored. And when your computer has more wasted data, there are particular apps which slow down. You're not able to use efficiently the use of the computer. So make it a habit to have a weekly cleanup of your digital handheld mobiles and other devices. And to prevent the cluttering of the computers, the most recommended strategy is to reduce the quantity of the garbage data which enters into a computer. Programs may be designed to leave less useful files once in the application is installed. The researchers, especially about the academicians, when you're writing a research paper, unnecessarily sometimes you download certain information which is no more required. So make it a habit when the final documents are ready. Or similarly, the corporates also, they make the report. So when the final document is ready, make it a habit to delete the entire folder, because it is adding to the digital footprints and reducing the sustainable footprints and increasing the carbon footprints. So make it a habit to recycle, reuse, dispose of the data when it is not required. And just one more aspect I would like to highlight here, that do you know that every email letter stored in your inbox is using up the energy? According to a digital cleanup, 62 trillion spam mails are sent every day, requiring the use of about 33 billion watts of electricity and causing about 20 million tons of carbon dioxide per year. So, moreover, the experts, as per the SHIFT project, the digital technologies share the global CO2 emissions increase from 2.5% to 3.7% in a span of 5 years just by the email aspects. So just see that if you make it a habit of cleaning the emails, the spams, how responsibly you are acting and straight away contributing to decarbonize the economy. The need to address the climate change is one, make sure your smartphone and your handheld mobiles are clean every day. Keep your laptops free of contaminants. Remove duplicate files, outdated files. Take care of your mailbox, if not daily, but weekly. Unsubscribe to unnecessary YouTube channels, unnecessary newsletters. Eliminate the junk. You have to be very brief and simple in your emails. Now, basically, I want to tell you here that even the responsible companies, they are moving, taking a lot of good steps to increase the sustainable footprints. I've already mentioned, by 2030, the big giants, they have the big plans of making their clouds greener. WhatsApp has also come out with the feature of disappearing messages after a week. They are also moving on to disappearing chats in 24 hours. They are also moving towards, the Google is also taking care of a lot of steps to make their emails disappear after a month, after 6 months, quarter, and a year. They're working towards it. It is the work is under progress. And these are very, very important things. Which
apologies to interrupt, ma'am. I think we need to sum up as we have other panelists also waiting, so we are just running late. Yeah.
Okay. So institutional forms which we talk about, they have to be very brief and crisp, so that the information which we store it on cloud is very brief. The virtual audits, I would recommend, should be in place. It could be interim audits, it could be 6 monthly, it could be annually. Definitely, it is going to make a lot of good difference. the individual habit correction, reducing of the cyber garbage, use of energy efficiency equipment. And one more thing, that we are, when we are working in the organization, so basically we get individual mails which are official. So basically it is very important to put some good policies in place wherein rather than individual emails, we can have a formal shared portal wherein every individual will log in and see what important emails or what important aspects or work details are there rather than individual portals. And there are some important points which I would like to highlight here, that there has to be a use of business chat account rather than the emails. And there is a cloud snoozing in which the portal will be optimizedly used, and optimum use of the emails and the systems in place can actually increase the sustainable footprints. So thank you all for giving me an opportunity to share my views. Although I had many more things to say, but because of the time limitation, I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Namita, for sharing the detail. I know you need at least one full day to explain all these things. I hope that would be sufficient. Next time we will definitely have different sessions and have more time. So I'm waiting for things to open up so that physically we can have these events, because virtually at times it becomes very difficult. So thank you very much, and we look forward to have more sessions with you, Namita ji. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
So now we proceed further, and we now go to the session of electronic waste, because we have most of our panelists who will be talking on this. So in this, I would be requesting our industry colleague, Ms. Dipali Sinha Khetriwal ji, to moderate this session. So Ms. Dipali is the managing director of Sophie Sustainability Leaders Private Limited, and she has over 15 years of international work experience, having lived, studied, and worked in Asia, Europe, and the US. So just on the lighter side, Africa is still available, so you need to spend some time in Africa as well. So she has extensive experience of e-waste management in developing and OECD countries, and has published several papers in peer-reviewed journals on the topic. At United Nations University, she was instrumental in setting up the capacity development activities of the STEP initiative, a UN-supported forum on the e-waste problem. At Sophie's, she is the managing director of Sophie's India, as well as senior consultant in the e-waste domain, working with international organizations and multinational companies on compliance, pilot projects, and system setup. So over to you, Dipali ji. This session you can moderate, and all the panelists are there with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to everyone from wherever you're joining. It's great to have a chance to be part of this very distinguished panel and be moderating it. We're running a little bit behind time, so apologies if I'm going to be like rushing through this because I do want to make sure that all our panelists have a chance to really share parts of their extensive experience. I'll just quickly introduce them and then we'll jump into the talks from them. So first up is Nancy, who is joining us from California very, very early in the morning. So thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking to us. She is the CEO of the Global Electronics Council. And this is the organization that has been leading the charge on making electronics safer through the EPEAT standard, and really working a lot with the electronics industry as well as the government in the US and worldwide. So I'm sure she has a lot to share, and it would be great to hear from you, Nancy, on some of the work and experiences you have on this topic. Following that, we'll have Benisha, who's also been in the field for a very long time. I've known Benisha for 15, 16, 17 years now. I'm sure she has a lot of data, and she's been very much on the field, and it would be great to hear from you, Benisha. She's currently heading the International Institute of Waste Management, and she's worked on a lot of waste-related projects across different waste streams. So thank you for joining us. Coming up next after Benisha will be Pranshu. Pranshu Singhal is the founder of Karo Sambhav. It's a producer responsibility organization, something that is a very new entity in India, but has been in Europe, established for a while. the concept to really be the one to pull the strings to make e-waste and other waste streams also to channelize it, to bring it all together. So Pranshu will be sharing some of his insights, on the vision and the operational realities of e-waste management in India. And then finally, we'll have Professor Narayan Khedkar joining us from ITM University in Gwalior, where he has been teaching, and of course, he brings a lot of experience, over 27 years of experience in teaching and research in India and abroad. So thank you to all our very distinguished panelists for joining. And without taking more time, I'd really like to invite Nancy to share her thoughts with us. Nancy, over to you, please.
Great, thank you very much. I'm not being given the opportunity to share my screen. Can I be given the share opportunity? I do have 2 or 3 slides that might help with my comments.
We can do that. Paramjit, please give the rights to ma'am.
While that is happening, I think Dr. Chatterjee built the base for this session quite well. He spoke about green public procurement. He spoke about upstream improvements through removing hazardous chemicals, etc. So I think there are definitely things that we can learn from. Thanks. Okay, great. The presentation is up. So
Try this again.
Yeah, we can see the presentation. Great.
Wonderful. So as was mentioned, I work for the Global Electronics Council. We actually rebranded. We have been a mission-driven nonprofit for more than 15 years. And actually, we started as the Green Electronics Council, but moved to becoming the Global Electronics Council in February of this year. And one of the reasons why we shifted to become the Global Electronics Council is to reflect 2 things. One, that of course sustainability is global. The impact is global, and the way to increase it and address things such as e-waste, as some of the speakers have talked about, which is the growing waste stream in the world, you need global solutions. Also, we shifted from being the Green Electronics Council to the Global Electronics Council because sustainability and non-sustainable behavior is not only an environmental concern, but social one as well. There are both negative and positive impacts associated with technology. One of course, the negatives that we're talking about is e-waste, but e-waste is a health and well-being challenge for many, many people globally. It, though, can also be an economic opportunity if addressed correctly. So the Global Electronics Council, we focus on the power of technology, but also how do we leverage that power without necessarily having it come at the price of people and planet. And our focus is really working with purchasers, not end consumers, but large-scale institutional purchasers. We seek to leverage their power when they buy technology to actually make sure that they're buying credible, sustainable technology. Now, what we really are well known for is, as was mentioned, our eco-label EP. This is an eco-label that, as you see, covers a number of the major technology types that are used in most every work environment. We are starting to expand the coverage of our eco-label to also cover technology that's associated with how we stay connected, so networking equipment, and especially since we are still in the midst of the horrible COVID pandemic, how can we use technology to gain access to necessary health and well-being services while not necessarily leaving our home? And so we're also focused on health and well-being wearables, so bringing healthcare to those who are not able to go to hospitals. And EP, as other eco-labels, are focused on a life cycle impact. And of course, a major impact of technology is its end of life. So EPS criteria has within it criteria that focus on extending the life of a product, either through repairability or refurbishment, but more importantly also, how do we take those products back? So take-back requirements, which is necessary for these products to actually stop being e-waste and start being products that we can continue to use within our economic activities. Now, one of the things that we're very proud of is we were invited early last year to become part of the Circular Electronics Partnership. So we've been talking about e-waste today, and we've been talking about what can we do, and there's been some great suggestions of tactics we can employ. But what the Global Electronics Council, in our role of being part of the Circular Electronics Partnership, is to look at what can we do at scale. And specifically, what can we do that really leverages the power of purchasing? So the Circular Electronics Partnership is an industry-led partnership. It has as its partners organizations such as the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, the World Economic Forum, PACE, the Responsible Business Alliance, so a number of global industry-focused organizations that want to create a world that is not only more sustainable, but circular. And we just earlier this year released a roadmap. So how does the entire electronic sector move towards greater circularity? And when we talk about moving to circularity, we're talking about addressing e-waste, right? We're understanding that even when we focus on refurbishment or repair or recycling, we're still focused on a linear system. We need to break that. We need to bring true circularity into how we address electronics. So the Circular Electronics Partnership came up with this roadmap, and as you see, there are 6 areas of focus for that roadmap. The one that's highlighted with the box is the focus on driving demand for circular products. Why? Because driving demand for circular products means that we actually then will have the financial resources to drive change within the industry. And that's one of the challenges we're facing today. So we are proud to be part of this partnership. Our role as the Global Electronics Council working with purchasers is to actually try to now aggregate purchaser demand. And what does that mean? It means that we are launching an actual campaign globally that tells purchasers, both on the public sector, but also the private sector, the big multinational corporations at minimum, that when they are buying technology, they should be buying sustainable and circular technology. And by that, they should be buying technology that is designed to be repaired, refurbished, that has as its core life extension as a goal, so that we're not replacing these products every year, but also that has been designed in such a way to when the utility of the product finally reaches its end, when it's finally gone from first use through second use, that we can actually break those products down into the material flows that are necessary so that those flows go back into the production stream. So our focus on this global campaign is to get public and private sector large-scale purchasers to commit that by 2022, 25% or more of their total technology spend is towards credible, sustainable, and circular technology. By 2030, it's 50% more, and by 2050, 100%. And the impact for that is not just a reduction in e-waste, since of course technology uses, as we heard from a number of our speakers, energy, it also helps address the reduction of greenhouse gases and therefore, of course, climate change. But it's not only what it addresses, such as climate change and e-waste, it's also the opportunity that it provides. Now, when we engage in, as part of this campaign, sustainable and circular procurement, what we're doing is we're providing an opportunity for jobs and economic development. And one of the things that we focus on is on the demand side. So for purchasers, if we really want both public sector and private sector to start putting their money against credible, sustainable, and circular technologies, we need to train that workforce to recognize what is a credible, sustainable, and circular product. How do I prefer that as part of a large-scale procurement? One of the best ways to do that, of course, is to train. It's also to allow for networking and engagement. It's making sure that when we're hiring, we're actually bringing in, and we had a great presentation from students today, we're bringing in those who have deep experience in aligning the use of technology with sustainability. But it also provides great opportunities for training and jobs on the supply side. So for those companies who are actually making the products. And here again, when we talk about circularity, we're talking about a mental paradigm shift. We're talking about breaking the linear concept of just making products better to actually designing products that, yes, we keep using longer. Yes, we can repair. Yes, we can refurbish, but that also, when finally the utility is done, we're able to actually break them apart as part of a recycling process and take those materials back into the production processes, either within the tech sector or within another sector as part of an economic exchange. That, of course, is what a circular economy is focused on. And if
Nancy, sorry
this,
to interrupt.
yes.
I mean, I know we have so many interesting things to listen from you, but I do want to give the others also a chance. If you don't mind, if you could just wrap up, another couple.
This is my last slide. This is my last slide. So if we're focused on the supply side and those companies, what we really need to do is also give that an opportunity to hire people who have sustainability, reverse logistics, design, chemicals, sourcing, and procurement, and really bring those people into the major organizations. So with that, thank you for this opportunity to allow me to join these really powerful speakers. I've been taking lots of notes. It's been great information, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy, for your very inspiring talk. I think that links very well to our next speaker, Benisha. So over to you, please.
Good evening, everybody. Being the one of the advantage and also disadvantage. Advantage because most of the stage is set with the information, so I don't have to go into details. And disadvantage because I don't know if I will really have the time, but of course I'll try and make it in 5 minutes. My slides are visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Right. Okay. So I'm from International Institute of Waste Management. Have been working for the past 23 years in waste management and e-waste. In fact, I've been fortunate to be one of the first among the people who started working on e-waste in the country since 2002. And I was also able to contribute for the first draft of e-waste rules along working with the Ministry of Environment and Forests. So from there onwards, I've been following the evolution of e-waste management in India. And yes, my presentation, I would first talk about IIWM, that's the International Institute of Waste Management, which I'm heading. And then I would actually look at how the virtual waste and e-waste is linked and the market scenario in India and what kind of impact it has on the Indian environment and how it's going to be in the next 5 years. And then some of the way forward strategy, which which I think would be good to follow. So these are kind of food for thought so that we could generate some discussions. So I won't go into the details, but IWM started in 2009. It was a program of the Ministry of Science and Technology. It's a non-profit organization, and we work on all waste management aspects. E-waste is one of the main aspects, and technology evaluation, capacity building, policy support. We work. We have offices across the country and we work pan-India. There are several circular economy projects, and especially with E-Waste Connect that we are doing. We work with varied kind of target groups. So we have cricket stadiums and cricket associations. We have a project with AICT where we work with 10,000 plus educational institutions. We've developed the rating and also certifying compliance guidelines for AICT. So all the engineering colleges across the country use this as a guideline. And we do, that's called the Green Campus Project and Value Park. So there are several pioneering projects which are very innovative, which we have successfully implemented. We also work with women entrepreneurship development in waste management, and e-waste is one of them. COVID waste management, and we also work with sanitation improvement. Yeah, so now directly into the topic on virtual waste and e-waste connect. I think already it was mentioned 3.2 million tons per annum is our e-waste generation. But I would like to flag two things. Only 8 lakh tons annually is being recycled. Now, this is very important. 70% of the e-waste generated is IT-related waste, which is directly linked to the virtual waste, because almost all the servers, so when you talk in terms of the weight, then the highest quantity that the e-waste is generated is coming from these kind of servers and IT-related waste. So that's very important. Now, Indian data center market, I think Mayank already mentioned about it, is growing at 12% and is going to become US dollars 8 billion by 2026. And that's very important number, because currently it is 4.4, which is going to be doubled. And we will also be occupying, I mean, this data center will occupy an area of 2 million square feet. So this is the kind of, I mean, I just brought in these numbers to give a spatial understanding of what the sector is going to really have an impact in India. And there are 3 have already got into this, and they've given their space and they have welcomed these kind of data centers into their state. And I would also like to mention 3 states, because it's Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Telangana, because these also have some kind of an impact. So with this background, what I would like to get into is on the impact on environment. I think one of the speakers already gave a insight into it, but I would like to directly link it with the e-waste, because we know that in the next 5 years, the data center sector will be will be doubled, which means that e-waste from this sector will also be doubled within 8 years. So today's whatever waste is there, just with data center, it's going to be doubled. Again, we have the other waste, which will also be growing exponentially. So only 17% is currently being recycled in India. That's very important, because today, if we are not able to manage the current waste, when there is so much of waste which is going to come up, how are we going to manage this? Because we should be able to cover the deficit and also prepare to take the new load. 70% of e-waste
interrupt.
Sorry?
If you could just take another minute for your presentation, because then
Yes.
we'll have some time for questions, please.
Right.
Thanks.
12% increase in data center sector will have huge impact on the environment. Now, here again, I would like to also talk about the other waste which will be generated along with this, because when such sectors are booming, then we have the construction demolition waste, which is going to create e-waste from the end of life vehicles, then other allied industries which will come up because of this sector, and then power sector e-waste, telecommunication network. All these are other sector which will again create e-waste. So the next. Yeah, so I'm summing up with the way forward here. By 2030, the contribution from virtual e-waste is going to increase, all of us know. This eco-infrastructure will be able to cater to other e-waste. But I would like to mention one thing, that's the silver lining here, because this kind of a formal setup of data centers will actually since we have the e-waste policy, we have the e-waste regulation, this would be coming into the formal sector, and because of that, the PROs and other things which are in place with our e-waste regulation can be really streamlined. So this may not really enter into the informal sector, and this can, if we have the eco infrastructure in place for recycling, then this would directly enter into that space. But I would still have another question, which is like how we had earlier boom of pharmaceuticals and textile industries from the West coming into Indian or developing countries, where because the Greenpeace and others are putting a lot of pressure into these kind of data centers in Europe and US, they will now try and look for spaces like in India. So what is going to happen is that when they come here, the environmental standards may actually come down. So that is going to be a threat, and we should be prepared to face this kind of a challenge. The other environmental impact due to higher growth in the sector is going to be the concern, which is power sector, which I think was already mentioned. Then about hubs like Maharashtra, which is already having highest e-waste generation, Uttar Pradesh, which does not have much of infrastructure for handling e-waste currently. So which means planning of recycling facilities in the industrial corridors, which are on where these kind of states are existing, should be really thought of. Recycling parks is definitely going to be the way forward. And along with the end-of-life vehicles and other related e-waste management, we need to look at this. And then the formalized informal sector will then be able to have the niche for household and other e-waste. So we should, because we've worked with a lot with the informal sector, I feel that although there are a lot of challenges, this would really streamline our e-waste management, because we would have different niche and there would be space for everybody to work. And because of that, it can also, if we implement our regulation clearly, then I think we can streamline the sector of recycling, and we might have a better data management also. That's my positive take on this. And I think we can take questions later on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anisha. I think that sets the stage very nicely for Pransh, who's actually operating a producer responsibility organization, a PRO, as you mentioned. And it would be great to hear from you, Pranshu, very briefly, 5 minutes if we can really try to keep it short. But
Sure.
Over to you then. Thanks.
Can I get a share possibility?
Paramjit, kindly do the needful, please.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Really delighted to be here, and I'll be primarily talking about where do we go from here. We have reached a certain stage. The rules came in, almost 9 years back. There were changes which were made to the rules, but there is now, one can really decide to move forward on the rules. So how do we move forward? What do we do? So I'll broadly share about Karosamba first. So Karosamba is an organization which operates in the space of circular economy. We design large-scale systems which enable EPR amongst other things, but also are focused on supporting organizations, global corporations in achieving their circularity goals. Karosamba is working in multiple waste spaces of multiple sectors. We started with electronics, but are now working in plastics, batteries, and a few other sectors that we are just going to start. The spaces that we work in, if we were to talk about electronic waste, it's a large space, has a whole range of stakeholders, and the activities require one to operate across the spectrum. So right from brands to generators of e-waste to collection points, informal sector waste workers, informal sector aggregators, to formalize them. So it's a whole range of play where one needs to operate. We also do a very wide variety of campaigns to onboard consumers, to drive the messaging on what is to be done, how to recycle, so that it's largely understood. Karosamba also works with a whole range of ecosystem partners. I have listed some of them here, where the intent is to create large-scale systemic solutions, create a wider industry framework, whether it is from a standardization perspective or from bringing reference benchmarks. Majority of our work is driven by a technology platform because at the heart of EPR lies accountability and transparency. And unless we focus on that very, very strongly, we will not be able to drive significant changes. So this brings to the main thing. And I'm using a slide which was developed almost 3 years back as a part of a program with the International Finance Corporation. And we had Dipali participate in that project too. We had multiple people. Dr. Sandeep wrote a piece, and this document was released in 2019. And our vision was, from an EPR perspective, to create a system where Indian PROs really emerge as world-class models. And this aspirational goal was based on certain parameters that if these get fulfilled, we will have a very clear systemic movement. So it essentially suggested we have a level playing field by 2023 when our system is fully functional. We have a level playing field for producers, a goal which I believe we'll have to really work hard if we are to solve this problem. We are very far from it. Consumers and bulk consumers participate in collection systems. I think this is starting to improve significantly. We are seeing large-scale participation. The third is on best available technologies used for treatment. Again, we are quite a distant from this one. The biggest challenge is on the last three, and these three are very foundational for success in this space. So first is entire industry is working with fair trade practices and strong governance. This is something that we are today, if I reflect on the system, on what progress we have made, whilst a significant progress has been made, and I like to acknowledge that, fair trade practices are virtually non-existent. Strong governance is very strongly missing. We were assuming that PROs would be competing on the highest standards, but what we are seeing is, even the very basics of how EPR should be practiced is missing in the way work is happening at this point in time. And value-added enforcement, which is again critical, is something which needs to come up. Very early signs of it, but until unless value-added enforcement comes from regulators, we will not see a very large-scale systemic change. I'll quickly walk into so I'll take just one more minute. I'll quickly walk into what it means. So when we talk of level playing field, it essentially means enforcement on all the critical stakeholders like producers. Right now, all enforcement is focused on just 7 or 8 producers. There are over 2,000 organizations operating, so it should be spread out. And document submission should not be considered compliance. This is the place where things are messing up in this country. People are just preparing documents, and we need to bring large scale institutions like technology and management institutes now to participate in supporting state pollution control boards for monitoring. We need to start publishing reference costs of compliance. Otherwise, we are all in a race to the bottom. Prices for waste are falling from a EPR perspective. So it's a bottomless pit. And we need to solve this problem by publishing costs of reference. Every company needs to showcase that if they are able to work at a specific price, how are they able to do that? We need to create rate cards basis material content. So if I am a consumer and I want to sell a keyboard, what money should I expect from the market, which will really help driving systemic solutions. We need to create significantly better monitoring systems, which will allow submission of data sets in a centralized digital system. And most importantly, analysis. Today, crazy amount of data set is being submitted by multiple PROs, brands, but we are unable to analyze because it's all on paper, which does not allow us to audit. And then the last point, we need to get significantly better at recycling and higher recovery. So which means that government immediately needs to bring in a recovery target that for any material that has been collected, we are able to recover a certain amount of material. All this combined will give us a very strong system, which I believe will allow us to achieve the vision that we had, which was discussed, detailed. So this is a broad overview from my side. Thank you, Deepali.
Thank you for that, Pranshu. I think that was really very, very clear and very, very powerful. I think it really brought a lot of the points, and it kind of made it a complete circle to what Dr. Chatterjee was also mentioning, in the policy paper that's just been published by NATI and is open for comment. So I think there are challenges, but also opportunities for us to really grow this. And I think one of the keys to getting there is awareness and education. And here I think it would be great to hear from Professor Narayan Khedkar to really show us, some of the shed some light on this and show what we could do as part of this. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Deepali. Is my screen visible?
Yes,
Yes,
it
sir.
is.
So, good evening to everyone, and I extend my thanks to Mr. Mayank for inviting ITM University and our alumnus Abhinav Jain to get us connected to Mayank and this conclave. I extend my thanks to our Pro-Chancellor, Dr. Daulat Singh Chauhan sir, for giving me this opportunity to be with you today evening. In this panel, Nancy Gill has really explained the opportunities for job and the possibilities in the world for e-waste management. Benisha from IIMW has informed regarding the AICT program, which most of the engineering colleges are taking part and making the campus green. And she is the right person, I think, which is taking lead in this e-waste management system. And Pranshu's Karo Sambhav is like practically making it possible what the theory we are all discussing. So with this introduction, I would like to share my few thoughts on the role of education in e-waste management. So this we have seen in the past few hours, 3.2 million tons e-waste has been generated already. So now the question is whether we start producing the e-waste with this rate, or we reduce the rate and start reusing and recycling whatever waste has been produced. So henceforth we have two options to go forward, and this is growing at the rate of 30%. Only 20% of this global e-waste is currently recycled. So there is a lot of scope and opportunity for the entrepreneurs to jump into this problem. India has the potential with the available manpower, infrastructure, and by using advanced technologies to be e-waste recycling and managing hub of the world, which India has been done in the past few sectors. So e-waste management also is a opportunity to become the world leader. The total value of all the raw materials present in the e-waste, which is around $61 billion, which is more than the GDP of most countries in the world. So now the e-waste is having serious future threat. As we have seen, most of the speakers in this conclave have emphasized, and I would like to specify the emergence of electric vehicles, the robotics, Internet of Things. Initially, when we were saying that machine is going to be a threat to humankind, which Gandhiji also emphasized, that the more dependency on machines is going to be a serious problem to mankind. And now we are talking about Internet of Things, where the machines are going to talk with machines using the internet. So Industry 4.0, which also is extension of IoT and the 5G. So all this is going to pile up the e-waste with exponential rise. So these are the problems and threats. So what are the opportunities? Opportunities are always there when there are problems exist. So we have a recycle industry possible, reuse industry possible. We have the opportunity to do research to utilize the materials which are in the form of e-waste to reuse them. Now, what is the role of education, which is the topic which has been informed? We will start with the self. Self is the best way to have the change. If you want to see the change, as Mahatma Gandhi has said, we have to bring the change from within. So what is the things we can do with the self? As has been pointed out by many speakers, we can avoid the use of many digital data, duplicacy of data, all those things are possible. And the hardware, the mobile industry is coming up with new models every quarter and with the new functions. So we can really ask a question whether that really is required or is it not required for my present work. But without compromising on our work, we can really choose the electronics which is available and required. With the family, we have to have the values, and the e-waste concept has to be developed and groomed in the family so that the family is aware what electronics things they are having at home and what is the waste and how to dispose the waste. That is more critical. If it is put in the soil, then that the soil is spoiled. In the school also this is to be implemented, and some of the schools are implemented this in the form of activities for the students, and those are going a long way. In the society, the change has to come, and the change has to come in the form of awareness camps and regarding the e-waste disposal facilities available, because the awareness is not there in most of the people regarding the e-waste possibility. In the college and universities, it is possible, and ITM has taken a lead, and I will share with you the possibilities in the university. In the state, the nation, and the world will become e-waste managed world. Now, what are the contributions ITM University is doing? ITM is a...
So, sorry to interrupt, but if
Yes,
you know,
one time wind up.
okay, perfect, perfect. Thank you.
Awareness in the students and faculty through the NSS, e-waste management clubs, elective course in the UG level, project-based learning includes e-waste management projects, certificate course and diploma program This is with industry, in collaboration with industry, and through this forum, I would invite the industries to join hands with ITM University to successfully implement this course to generate the manpower for the industry. ITM Incubator invite the startups on e-waste management. Now, this Mahatma Gandhi thought is very much applicable. The world has enough for everyone's needs, but not for everyone's greeds. So greed is the reason for most of the e-waste which is being created. And I will end with what Sant Kabir has mentioned a few centuries back. बड़ा हुआ तो क्या हुआ जैसे पेड़ खजूर पंक्ति को छाया नहीं फल लगे अति दूर. So my humble request to the guidance in the industry is the e-products which are being generated should also be considered regarding e-waste management. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir, for those very musical words. A very lovely way to end the presentation and wrap this session on e-waste and also the preceding session on virtual waste. I'm sure there are questions from the audience as well as the other panelists. So I think we should, even though we've kind of run to the end of the webinar, I don't know if it's possible to just take one or two questions, really burning questions, if anyone has, to really get a chance to pick the brains of our exceptionally wonderful panelists who patiently listened and also been very valuable contributors. So any questions from the other panelists for the moment? If not, I can start off with one for Nancy. How do you incentivize large consumers, and especially government, to really incorporate green procurement and have these institutionalize these kinds of practices?
A good question. The way that we've worked with them is that green procurement, as I mentioned, is an opportunity for job creation. So we point out how you can leverage green procurement to support domestic companies who are doing the necessary part of the technology supply chain to make it more sustainable. So you can choose within your procurement preferences for those types of companies or those types of products. But what we're seeing internationally as well is the fact that linking procurement as a way to achieve national sustainability goals. It's also now understood that you can translate your green procurement into actual environmental and social impacts. And the ability to calculate and quantify those impacts associated with your procurement is very attractive for a lot of both countries, cities, municipalities, because it shows their progression towards the goals that they set. I hope that it helps answer the question.
That does, Nancy. That's really great. I think that's also looping back, to some of the presentations earlier. Anyone else, who has? I don't know if it's possible to raise hands or if it's possible to put it in the chat. I see there's one question in the chat, which is on recyclers struggling to meet, or get good rates and be able to have a viable recycling business, more or less. And I think this is a question that comes often, and especially in a context of a country where you have a lot of informal recycling happening. So I don't know who would like to take this. I know Pranshu unfortunately had to drop off for another engagement. He might have had some thoughts on that, but maybe Benisha, if I might direct this to you. What do you think? I mean, how do you make sure that you can, have a viable business, meet the environmental obligations, controls, and still be able to compete in the market?
Yeah. This definitely is because of the large informal sector which is in place in India. And unlike other countries here, the generators usually think of selling their waste, and we don't pay for our waste. So to get rid of our waste. So this is one more reason. The other reason is, why is it that the informal sectors are thriving? Again, it is because they do not have to adhere to all the environmental regulations, because they are not regulated. So they can do it in their households, in their garage kind of a space, or in the slum areas. So they get free power. The water is free, and they can throw their hazardous substances coming out from the e-waste recycling anywhere and everywhere. So they can afford to pay more when the industries or when households are selling their e-waste. So that is why most of the e-waste is getting channelized to the e-waste sector. Now, I mean, to the informal e-waste recyclers. Now, this is true with most of the waste which goes for recycling, because we have a huge population of informal sector in place. So that is the
Vineeta,
reason. Yeah,
I think you mentioned the access to waste costs, and I think here I think I'd like to link it to what Professor just said. In terms of awareness, and if people are aware that there is a cost to actually collect it and dispose it, and that cost is greater than the intrinsic material value, I think there could be that change in behavior, and I think it really is down to consumer behavior, right? So. Professor, would you like to comment on that? And how could we move from a society that values waste, which is great, but then wants money for it, which makes the economics completely skewed?
Yeah, Deepali, exactly what my question you have raised will actually work if the consumer gets the value for return, and the consciousness towards not utilizing more, as mentioned by our Gandhiji. So these are the two things which will work out. And as I requested the guidance to take care of the generation and management also. So if the government regulations are put in forth, those companies which are generating the e-products also should be given the responsibility partly to take care of the management, then things will be under control.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for all of that.
If we can implement the EPR as it has been mentioned in the regulation, I think this will go a long way. So I think awareness definitely plays a big role. But at the same time, if the industries are going to shell out the money for their products for recycling, and that recycling fee goes to the recyclers, I think this will solve the issue.
Super. Thanks for that. I think I'd like to, take a chance to again thank all the speakers, all the panelists for all the wonderful interventions and the time to spend with us today. And of course, to PhD Chamber to organize this and really create that awareness that is necessary to bring the industry, on the same platform as well. So thanks again for, really hosting this and for inviting us. Over to you, Naveenji and Mayank, to really take this and close it out as you plan. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dipaliji, for moderating this. And I can understand moderating such session where a lot of speakers are there and they have too much to talk. So it is very difficult to. I think we should have these interactions very often, so that we get time to listen to each other, because there is so much to talk. If everybody is there, they have so much to share with us, and we are also keen. Our attendees are also keen. We have compiled those questions which we'll be sharing with all of you. And once we get a reply from you, we will give it back to the attendees who have participated in this. So thank you very much, Dipaliji, for this, and all the panelists who are there. Thank you for your time. So now I would like to invite my colleague, Dr. Jatinder Singh, who is the director in PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and looking after the electronics and ICT expert committee which we have in this. So,
Yes,
sir,
so before
to you.
I just like to quickly make a point that we'll be coming with the second edition of EVWC in the month of September. And I would request all the panelists, all the attendees to help us, support us the way they have done today. It's a phenomenal event, I think, because we have received 250 registrations for this particular event, and there were approximately 190 people who were logged in. So it clearly shows the intentions as well. That was one thing I wanted to make a note of. And I promise next time the panel discussion will be in the beginning and the rest of the presentation will go later on.
I know.
So, Dr. Jitendra, over to you for your concluding remarks.
Thank
and
you.
You can propose the vote of thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Naveen Seth, for this opportunity. In fact, at the outset, I am in fact thankful for all the for this virtual and electronic waste conclave, and also sharing your insights and findings and opinions with all of us today. And as you rightly said, that electronic waste is emerging as a very serious public health issue and also the environmental issue in India. And many of the speakers, the key word or the punchline is that India is the 5th largest electronic waste producer in the world, which is definitely a obnoxious thing for all of us to listen. And we know that approximately around 2 million tons of e-waste are generated annually, and also an undisclosed amount of e-waste is imported from other countries around the world. And if you see an ordinary circuit board, maybe from a mobile or laptop, it roughly contains at least 16 different metals. And most of the informal sectors, they retrieve a couple of metals and then landfill the rest. So hazardous chemicals, even like mercury and other metals, which are used to extract these metals, they actually leach into the soil, which will be damaged, forever. And in fact, our speakers, our domain experts have deliberated very, very important points. And I'm honestly thankful to all the participants for taking out their precious time to be with us today and making this event a success. In fact, today's discussion has provided us with very valuable suggestions on surmounting the challenges of virtual waste as well as e-waste. In fact, the focus was more on e-waste, but I'm sure that virtual waste is also in the pipeline, and India is also going to see a big boon in this virtual waste also. So we need to be ready right from the beginning. And in fact, equally, I'm thankful to our partners, Global Electronics Council, Sambhav, National Institute and Dairy for in fact partnering with us. And in fact, this was a very fine blend of academia and industry interface, because we see most of the renowned speakers, they are again a mix from industry, from government and academia. So I'm thankful to, first of all, our Senior Vice President, Mr. Pradeep Multani, for actually laying the foundation of this important webinar. Then our co-chair for ICT and Electronics Committee, Mr. Kunal Singhal. For industry perspective, I am very much thankful to Dr. Sandeep Chatterjee, Director, Scientist F, Electronics, Materials and Waste Components Division, Ministry of Electronics and IT, Government of India. Also, I am thankful to Dr. Sunil Pandey, Director, Environment and Waste Management Division, the Energy and Resource Institute. In fact, then we had this presentation by Professor Namita Rajput. In fact, she has deliberated very important points. I look forward to have a presentation from her side, which I could not actually see. And Dr. Namita, she's a professor at Department of Commerce. She is in the College, University of Delhi. And in fact, the panel discussion also gave us a lot of new insights, which was very well moderated by Ms. Dipali Sinha Ketriwal, the Managing Director from Sophie Sustainability Leaders Private Limited. I'm equally thankful to all the panelists, Ms. Nancy Gills, the CEO of Global Electronics Council, Mr. Pranshu Singhal, Founder and Director, Karo Sambhav, Ms. P. Vinisha, Executive Director, International Institute of Waste Management, and Professor Santosh Narayan Ketkar, the Pro Vice Chancellor of ITM University, Gwalior. So in fact, this was a fine blend of industry and academia interface, and Dr. Santosh with his tagline, "Bada hua to kya hua, jaise ped khajur." In fact, it basically gives a total, perspective and ecosystem of e-waste and how this should be managed. So in fact, I'm really thankful to all the distinguished speakers. And last but not the least, I would like to extend heartfelt thanks to International Committee led by Mr. Naveen Seth, with Mr. Mayank Chatwal, who also gave a very, very fine presentation. I'm equally thankful to my colleague Sagar Raj for actually spearheading this webinar, and also to all the team who was in fact working in all back office operations for making this event very successful. As already announced by Mayan, we'll be definitely having this another version in the month of September with more strategic insights, and we'll try to bring a good, blend of industry interface as well as academia interface with some of the international best case studies and some of the fine examples. So thank you once again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and we look forward to have you in more sessions in the times to come. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you,
Dr. Jitendra. Dr. Jitendra, thank you very much for the support you have lended. And it is an expert domain from your side. So the guidance which you have been giving is really, we appreciate that, and we look forward to work very closely and develop this event into a flagship event of our chamber with the support of all these experts from this industry. So thank you very much, all the panelists, the speakers today, and the attendees. Thank you very much.